The rain had teeth that night. I'm Silas Moretti, and I've worked at Rossi's Trattoria for 17 years. I've seen proposals, breakups, celebrations, and funerals over wine-stained tablecloths. But I've never seen anything like what happened the night Marina Duval burst through those doors. It was 9:30 on a Thursday. Thunder cracked over Manhattan like God himself was angry. The restaurant hummed with low conversation, the kind where everyone pretends not to eavesdrop, but absolutely does. Candles flickered, rain hammered the windows, and then she appeared, soaked to the bone, mascara running, hair plastered to her face like she'd crawled out of the Hudson River itself. She didn't walk in. She exploded. Make him regret losing me. Her voice cut through every conversation like a knife through silk. Forks froze midair. Wine glasses paused at lips. The piano player's hands went still on the keys. Everyone turned to stare at this wild, drenched woman standing in the doorway, shaking with rage and heartbreak. Someone, she choked out, her voice breaking. Anyone, just tell me how to make him regret what he did to me. Have you ever wanted someone to feel even a fraction of the pain they caused you? Hit that like button right now, because what happened next changed everything. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. I moved toward her, grabbing a towel from behind the bar. Miss, please let me. But I never finished that sentence. Because Luciano Falcone stood up. You need to understand something. Luciano didn't just stand. The air itself seemed to rearrange around him. He was 68 years old, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. He'd been sitting alone in the corner booth, the one we always kept reserved even though he rarely came by anymore. When he moved, the entire restaurant held its breath. He walked toward Marina with the kind of calm that makes your survival instinct scream. Slow steps, measured, like he was approaching a wounded animal. His shoes clicked against the hardwood floor, each step louder than the thunder outside. He stopped 3 feet from her. You want him to regret it? His voice was quiet, controlled, the kind of quiet that demands you lean in to hear it. Marina looked up at him through tear-streaked eyes, confused, desperate. I can make that happen, Luciano said. But once I do, there's no turning back. That's how the night, everything changed began. And trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. Marina stared at him like he'd just offered her a loaded gun. Who are you? Her voice was small now, all that rage drained out and replaced with something closer to fear. Luciano gestured to the booth he'd been sitting at. Someone who understands what it means to be betrayed. The entire restaurant was still frozen. I watched as he pulled out a chair for her, this soaked, devastated woman who'd just screamed her pain to a room full of strangers. She hesitated, then sat. I should have stopped it right there. But something in Luciano's eyes told me this wasn't a conversation you interrupted. He sat across from her, perfectly composed, and snapped his fingers once. Like magic, Antonio appeared with 2 glasses of wine. The good stuff. The kind we kept locked up. Tell me about him, Luciano said. Marina's hands shook as she reached for the glass. Adrian. His name is Adrian Blackwell. We were together for 4 years. I built his company with him, worked nights, weekends, everything. She took a sip, then another. He left me for his assistant. Fired me for my own work. Took credit for everything I created. Would you trust a stranger offering revenge? Drop a comment and let me know. Luciano didn't blink, didn't nod, just listened with the kind of attention that makes you want to keep talking. He told everyone I was crazy, Marina continued, that I was obsessed, that he had to let me go for his own safety. A bitter laugh escaped her. I gave him everything, and he made me into a villain. The piano started playing again, soft background music. But everyone in that restaurant was still watching our corner. What do you want from him? Luciano asked. I want him to feel what I feel. I want him to lose everything like I did. She stopped, realizing how dark that sounded. You want justice, Luciano finished. Real justice, not the kind that comes from lawyers and courtrooms. Marina nodded slowly. Luciano leaned back, studying her the way an artist studies a blank canvas. Revenge is a dish we serve differently here, Marina. We don't make noise. We don't make threats. We simply make people face the consequences of their choices. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Black. Heavy stock. Just an address in gold lettering. If you're serious about this, come to this address tomorrow. 3 o'clock. Don't be late. Marina took the card with trembling fingers. For the first time since she'd walked in, she smiled. But it wasn't forgiveness. It was the start of something darker. The address led to a mansion that didn't belong in this century. I wasn't there, but Marina told me later. Told me how she almost turned back 3 times driving up that hill overlooking the Hudson. How the iron gates opened before she even pressed the buzzer, like they'd been expecting her. The house was all stone and glass. Old money mixed with modern power. Inside, silence. Not peaceful silence. The kind that makes you aware of your own breathing. A woman in her 50s, elegant, cold, led Marina through hallways lined with art that probably cost more than most houses. No small talk, just the clicking of heels on marble. Luciano was waiting in a study that looked like something from a different era. Dark wood, leather chairs, books that had actually been read. He stood by the window, hands behind his back, watching the river below. "You came," he said without turning around. "I almost didn't." Marina's voice was steadier now. Daylight had given her back some courage. "But you did, which tells me you're serious." He turned to face her. "Tell me everything about Adrian Blackwell. His business, his connections, his weaknesses." Marina spent the next hour laying out Adrian's empire. The tech startup they'd built together. The investors he'd charmed. The patents filed under his name that she'd actually designed. The way he'd frozen her out, stolen her work, and rewritten history. Luciano listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "We don't chase him," he finally said. "We let him chase his own destruction. I don't understand. Men like Adrian destroy themselves eventually. They just need the right pressure points." Luciano moved to his desk, pulled out a file. He's already overextended. 3 bad investments in the last 6 months. He's covering losses with new investor money. That's a house of cards waiting to fall. Marina's eyes widened. "How do you know all this?" For the first time, Luciano smiled. Not warmly. "I know many things, Marina. The question is, are you ready to learn?" In his eyes, she saw something terrifying. Not desire, but recognition. "You remind me of someone I couldn't save," he said quietly. If you've ever been broken and wanted to rise stronger, subscribe now. This story is about becoming unstoppable. 3 months changed everything. Marina moved through Luciano's world like a student in a masterclass she never knew existed. He didn't teach her revenge. He taught her power. "Never raise your voice," he told her one afternoon in his study. "The moment you shout, you've already lost. Make silence your weapon." She learned how to walk into a room and own it without saying a word. How to dress not for attention, but for respect. How to listen in a way that made people reveal more than they intended. Luciano's lessons were strange, uncomfortable. One day, he took her to a charity auction and made her observe. "Watch how power moves," he said. "It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to." She watched men in expensive suits negotiate fortunes with handshakes. Women who controlled boardrooms with a glance. Everyone performing an elaborate dance where the real conversations happened in pauses and silences. "Adrian plays in the shallow end," Luciano explained later. "He thinks money equals power. It doesn't. Influence does. Respect does. Fear, when necessary, does." Marina absorbed it all. Her posture changed. Her voice dropped half an octave, steadier, calmer. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. "I saw her once during this time when she came by the restaurant. Didn't even recognize her at first. The broken woman who'd burst through our doors was gone. In her place stood someone who looked like she could buy the building." "Silas," she said, smiling. "Thank you. For that night." "What's he turning you into?" I asked, worried. "Someone I should have been all along." But there was something else in her eyes. Something harder. She visited her mother that week. Told me later how her mom barely recognized the confidence. "Did you get a new job?" her mother had asked, confused by the change. Something like that, Marina had answered. Every lesson was a seed, and revenge was about to bloom. Back at the mansion, Luciano pulled up security footage on his computer. Adrian, leaving some office building, looking worried. He's going to a gala next month. The Metropolitan Business Alliance dinner. Luciano turned to Marina. That's where you'll start. The Waldorf Astoria glittered like a jewelry box full of sharks. Marina walked in wearing a dress that cost more than her old monthly salary. Black, simple, devastating. Luciano had chosen himself. Remember, he'd told her in the car, "You're not here for revenge tonight. You're here to remind him what he lost." The ballroom was full of Manhattan's elite. Investors, tech moguls, old money mixing with new. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, champagne flowing like water. Adrian was holding court near the bar, laughing too loud, his new girlfriend on his arm. Jessica, the assistant. She wore red and looked uncomfortable in it. Marina waited, positioned herself perfectly. Let Adrian see her on his own terms. When he did, his face went white. She watched it happen in slow motion. The champagne glass frozen halfway to his lips. The way his eyes widened. The conversation around him dying as he stared. Marina smiled, raised her own glass slightly. A toast to ghosts. Adrian, someone said to him, "You all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I have," he whispered. She didn't approach him. Didn't need to. Just moved through the crowd, confident, radiant, talking to people who actually mattered. Important people. People Adrian had been trying to impress all night. Luciano stood across the room, watching with satisfaction. By the time Adrian worked up the courage to approach, Marina was in conversation with Vincent Zhao, a venture capitalist who could make or break companies with a phone call. "Marina." Adrian's voice cracked. "What are you doing here?" She turned to him slowly, like he was a stranger interrupting. "Adrian, how nice to see you." The coldness in her voice could have frozen the champagne. "You look different. I found better company." She turned back to Vincent, dismissing Adrian completely. The look in Adrian's eyes said it all. He finally understood regret. 3 days later, Adrian's company collapsed. Investors pulled out. His CFO revealed accounting irregularities. Everything unraveled at once. But someone started asking questions. Someone wanted to know who'd helped him fall so fast. Marina became famous for all the wrong reasons. Within 2 weeks, whispers spread through Manhattan's elite circles like wildfire. The woman who destroyed Adrian Blackwell. The ghost who'd returned with teeth. People admired her, feared her, wanted to be her, or wanted her gone. She sat in Luciano's study one afternoon, staring at her phone. Messages from people she'd never met. Interview requests. Job offers from companies that wouldn't have returned her calls 6 months ago. "Is this what power feels like?" she asked. "Because it feels hollow." I was there that day, delivering wine Luciano had ordered from the restaurant. I watched her face, saw the cracks forming. "You're starting to question it," Luciano said. Not surprised. Almost like he'd been waiting for this moment. I wanted him to hurt the way he hurt me. Marina's voice dropped. But watching his company collapse, seeing his investors turn on him, his reputation destroyed. I keep thinking, am I any better than he was? Have you ever gotten exactly what you wanted and realized it wasn't enough? Let us know in the comments. Luciano poured 2 glasses of scotch. Power reveals the soul, Marina. Yours is still pure. How do you know? Because you're asking the question. But Marina couldn't shake the feeling. She'd become someone people whispered about. Someone they stepped aside for in hallways. The victim had become something else entirely. That night, unable to sleep, she went through files in Luciano's study. Files he'd left carelessly open. Or maybe not carelessly at all. Adrian wasn't the only name in those folders. There were others. Dozens. Men who'd wronged someone. Women who'd betrayed partners. Each file detailed, organized, complete with outcomes. Bankruptcies. Divorces. Disappearances. Marina's hands shook as she read. Luciano hadn't just helped her. This was what he did. A silent architect of consequences. A ghost who settled scores for people who had none. She heard footsteps behind her. "You weren't supposed to see those yet," Luciano said quietly. Marina turned to face him. The files spread across his desk. "How long have you been doing this?" "Long enough to know when someone deserves it." "And who decides that?" "You." Luciano's expression didn't change. "Someone has to. Purity doesn't last long when you dance with devils." And Marina had just learned she'd been dancing longer than she thought. The confrontation happened 3 days later. Marina stormed into the mansion, past the elegant woman who tried to stop her, straight into Luciano's study, where he sat reading like he'd been expecting her. "You used me," she said. "Everything you taught me, everything we did, it wasn't about helping me. It was about adding another file to your collection." Luciano closed his book slowly. "Sit down, Marina." "No, I want answers. How many people have you done this to? How many lives have you destroyed playing God?" "Destroyed." His voice stayed calm. "I've corrected. There's a difference. Who gave you that right?" For the first time since she'd met him, Luciano looked tired. Old. The mask of control slipping just enough to show the man underneath. "My wife did," he said quietly. Marina stopped. "What?" Luciano stood, moved to the window, his back to her. "Her name was Elena. We were married 32 years. She was everything good I wasn't. Kind. Forgiving. She saw the best in everyone." His voice cracked slightly. "Including the man who killed her." Marina felt her anger drain away, replaced by something colder. "Understanding. Business partner. Someone I trusted. He embezzled from us. And when Elena found out, she wanted to give him a second chance. She believed in redemption." Luciano's hands gripped the windowsill. He staged a car accident to keep her quiet. Made it look random. The silence in that room was suffocating. The courts called it an accident. Insufficient evidence. He walked free, took everything we built, and lived well. Luciano finally turned to face her. "So I learned a different kind of justice. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't rely on lawyers or judges or the system that failed her." Marina's throat tightened. "I'm sorry. I couldn't save Elena. But I could save you. And others like you. People who the system abandoned." They stood there, predator and student, connected by shared wounds. "Promise me something," Luciano said. "Don't become them. Don't let this power make you cruel." The man the world called a monster had finally told the truth. Then his face went pale. His hand clutched his chest, and he collapsed. The villa in the countryside was where Luciano went to die. Not dramatically, not violently, just quietly, the way he'd lived most of his life behind the scenes. Heart failure, the doctor said. Years of stress catching up. Marina visited him on a Tuesday afternoon in late autumn. The trees were gold and red, and the air smelled like wood smoke. The villa was smaller than the mansion, more personal. Photos on the walls. Books everywhere. This was where Elena had lived. Luciano sat in a chair by the window, wrapped in a blanket despite the warmth. He'd aged years and weeks. "You came," he said, his voice weaker now. "Of course I came." Marina pulled up a chair beside him. "Did you think I wouldn't?" They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The kind of silence that only exists between people who understand each other completely. "Do you regret it?" Marina finally asked. "Everything you did after Elena?" Luciano considered this. "I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it." Marina reached over, took his hand. It felt fragile now, all that power reduced to paper-thin skin and bone. "Adrian called me last week," she said. "He wanted to apologize. Said he'd been in therapy, realized what he'd done, wanted to make amends. And I told him I forgave him. And I meant it." She smiled. "Because I don't need his regret anymore. I have myself back." Luciano squeezed her hand weakly. "That's the only victory that matters. Quiet victories last longer than loud ones." They talked until sunset. About Elena. About Marina's plans. About the foundation she wanted to start. Helping women rebuild after betrayal. Not through revenge, but through empowerment. "You'll do good things," Luciano said as darkness fell. "Better things than I did. You did plenty of good. I did what I knew how to do. You'll do better." Marina leaned over, kissed his forehead. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when no one else did." That was the last time she ever saw him alive. 2 days later, the news broke. Businessman Luciano Falcone found dead at 72. Natural causes. Quiet funeral, private, no media. The funeral was held at a small church in Westchester. I was there. So it was Marina. Maybe 30 other people total. For a man who'd touched so many lives, you'd expect crowds. But Luciano never wanted crowds. Rain fell that day too. Gentle this time. Not angry like the night Marina had burst into my restaurant. This rain felt like the world crying softly for a complicated man. Marina wore black, her hair pulled back, face composed. She'd grown so much in the months I'd known her. The desperate woman was gone. So was the vengeful one. This Marina was something else entirely. Peaceful. Strong. She stood by his casket before they closed it. Everyone had left the viewing room to give her privacy, but I stayed back, watching from the doorway. She placed a single white rose on his chest. "You made him regret losing me," she whispered. "But more than that, you made me remember who I am. Not the woman he tried to destroy. Not the weapon you tried to forge. Just me." Her hand lingered on the casket edge. "I'm going to do what you wanted. Help people. But differently. With light instead of shadows. With hope instead of fear." She paused. Elena would have liked that, I think. At the graveside, the priest said generic things about rest and peace. But it was Marina's words that mattered, spoken so quietly only those closest could hear. "Quiet justice," she said. "That's what you taught me. But I learned something you didn't teach. Quiet justice isn't revenge. It's freedom. It's becoming so complete in yourself that what others took doesn't matter anymore." We buried him overlooking the Hudson, near where his mansion stood. The same river he'd watched from his study window all those years. But she wasn't done honoring him. Every year after that, on the anniversary of the night she crashed into Rossi's trattoria, roses appeared. A dozen white ones, delivered to the restaurant. No card, no name, just flowers and silence. 5 years later, Marina Duval runs the Elena Falcone Foundation for Women's Empowerment. It's housed in a building in Chelsea, all glass and light. Nothing like Luciano's dark mansion. Women come there broken, betrayed, lost, and they leave with tools to rebuild. Not revenge, not destruction, just solid ground to stand on. I visited her there last month. The rain was falling again, Manhattan rain, the kind that makes everything shimmer. "You did it," I told her. "You turned his darkness into light." Marina smiled, standing by the window watching the city. "He gave me the tools. I chose what to build with them." Her office has only one photo on the wall. Luciano and Elena, young, decades ago, laughing at something outside the frame. He'd given it to Marina before he died. "Do you ever think about Adrian?" I asked. "Sometimes. I heard he's doing better now. Smaller company. More honest. Maybe hitting bottom saved him too." She turned to face me. "The thing about revenge, Silas, is that it's a fire. You can let it burn you up, or you can use it to forge something stronger." Luciano never learned the second part, but he gave me the chance to. Outside, thunder rumbled. Gentle, distant. Every woman who walks through those doors downstairs, I see myself, Marina continued. That desperate, broken version who screamed in your restaurant. And I get to tell them what Luciano told me, that they're stronger than what broke them. She moved back to her desk, picked up a file. Another woman's story. Another chance to help. "Quiet justice isn't about making others hurt," she said. "It's about becoming so completely yourself that their actions become irrelevant. That's freedom. That's victory." I left her there, backlit by Manhattan, rain streaming down the windows, building something beautiful from ashes. Because even the quiet ones have protectors. And sometimes they wear Italian suits. Other times, they wear hope like armor and teach others to do the same. If Marina's transformation moved you, if her journey from broken to whole inspired you, show your support. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories of quiet justice and redemption. Turn on notifications so you never miss when we drop the next one. Drop a comment about what part of Marina's story resonated with you most. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Because stories like this, they're not just entertainment. They're reminders that we're stronger than what breaks us. Always have been, always will be. Thank you for being part of this family. Until next time.